Aloha friends, it's Robert Stellick. I'm here with Daniel Kaanui at the Blue Planet Surf Shop, and today's video is going to be all about Armstrong foils for prone foil surfing. So I brought in Daniel because he's kind of the expert on that. So Daniel, can you give us a little rundown on the whole lineup of Armstrong foils? And let's start with, what do you recommend for beginners? Like someone that's getting started, what do you recommend they get for prone surfing?
First of all, for beginners, I would use something like the 1550, the version 1, something a little bigger. It's more stable, got more lift than the version 2 is a really more thin profile.
Okay, so let's pull out the newer V2 1550. Let's keep that one out, and then we'll compare these two. So in terms of the outline, the new one is a little bit higher aspect. This one has a little bit lower aspect. And then in terms of the profile thickness, this one is definitely a little bit thinner, right? And this one is a little bit thicker right here. So the thinner one is going to be probably a little bit faster. The high aspect also a little bit more efficient. But for beginners, you would recommend the thicker one, yeah?
I would recommend the thicker one with more surface area, as the V2 1550 would probably be more for performance.
So getting started, probably a 1550, also depending on body weights. For a heavier rider, maybe the 1850 would be a good size to start on, yeah?
1850 would also be good.
Yeah. So and then what kind of fuselage, mast, and tail wing do you recommend to go with that?
For the fuselage, I'd probably go with the 60 fuselage. And the tail wing, again, you can go with like either the 300, so it's more stable in the back for beginners, and then the more advanced would be something dropping down to the 232 or cutting the 232 and making a 212.
And then how about your mast length?
The mast length, I would, for beginner, I would go with the 24, so they don't lift as high out of the water, because sometimes it's kind of scary for the beginners to get up that high. But you can also use the 72 centimeter also. I mean, I go with either or.
So 24 is 60 centimeter,
60
right?
centimeter.
So 60 centimeter, a little bit shorter, makes it a little bit easier because you don't come off as high off the water, and even if you do breach, don't fall as far, right? Easier to control, more stable probably on a shorter foil. But then, what do you use mostly? This is a 72?
Yep. So I mostly use the 72 now, and I have the 60 also, but I've been using the 72 a lot.
Okay, so, and then progressing on, like, what's the next progression after the 1550? If you feel comfortable on that, what would you use as the next one?
So the next one, once you progress on the 1550, the version 1, I would probably say go to the 1250 wing, and this is like it's a mid aspect and really thin front profile, and not as much surface area as the 1550, so it has a little more performance.
So, and then how does it feel different from, like, if you start on the 1550 and go down to the 1250, how does it feel different?
So the 1550, you got a lot of lift. It's a little slower because of the profile here is thicker on the 1550, and this one is thin, and the cord is more narrow, so it's faster. But the only thing, when you turn on the 1250, it's a little more flatter turns, where this on the tip curves down a lot, so there's a lot of roll when you're turning. There's more surface area like to roll, where this one the tips come out of the water easily, as you can see.
Okay, so that one is a little bit flatter to turn, you said?
Flatter turns.
Okay.
Once you turn hard, then the tips break out.
Just this morning, I was flying the drone, got some footage of you prone foiling out here close by the shop, and you have a modified version of the 1250, yeah? So maybe let's talk about that a little bit. how you modified it and how it's different from the original.
So I modified my 1250, and I got the idea from Sky.rama on Maui, and he has a video showing how much to cut off the tips.
And we'll put that video down in the description below for a link. Yeah.
And so what I did is I took an inch off from the tip, as you can see, from here to here.
So it's a little bit that downturn part of the tip, yeah?
So I took that down tip part off about an inch,
Okay.
and then rounded it, and ta-da! It changed the whole 1250 foil of the way it surfs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot more looser. It's not as tracky because it's not these tips right here, like catching. So I like it.
Or is
This is the 50
Oh, the 50,
fuselage.
yeah. Yeah, okay.
So for beginners, I would recommend the 60. Because
Yeah.
the 50 is way more sensitive. Turning, it's tighter turning. Yeah, quicker.
And then you have the 200 centimeter flying V tail wing here.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
So I got the flying V tail with the tips. It's really good. It's kind of thin, so it's super fast, and like pumping is just it has like a little more spring back there because it's so thin, and it has like a little flex, so it has like some good spring off of that pump. And then turning, just that V tail, it's like just tips, like almost like surfing. But eventually, from what Sky is talking about, Sky from Maui, he said over here there's a cut line also, so you can cut that off. So there's a little bit of track with this tips, so when you cut that off, same like the front wing, like how I did on the 1250, there's not that trackiness. So soon I will cut that, maybe today.
Yeah, so what you can think of these tips is kind of like fins on a board. They give you tracking, but if basically with less fins, the board becomes more loose, you know, so you can turn easier. Let's talk a little bit about board. So for getting started, what size board do you recommend for catching waves on prone foiling?
Depends on their skill level. Like if they're like a longboarder or a decent surfer, can paddle, you know, I would start off with something like a 50-liter board, maybe something like a 5.0 or whatever you can get, like 6.0, something kind of big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you can, when you start advancing, then you can drop down to smaller boards. So a bigger board is better, and so I've been doing it for a while, like 3 years now, foiling, maybe a little over, and I dropped down to a 4.4 from I don't know what kind of board I had before, like a 6-foot board to a 5-foot board, and just keeps getting smaller. But at some point I don't go too small already, because just for paddling purposes.
So this is 33 liters, 4.4 by 18 and a half.
Yep.
And then you have these pads on the bottom. You want to explain that?
These pads is like almost like waxing the bottom of your board, which is like surfboard, which is a no-no. But for foiling, we put these pads on like wax, so when it's shallow, we turn upside down and we don't slip on the bottom of the board. Mm-hmm. It's not slippery and sliding away from us. And
then maybe talk about the deck and what you use for deck pad and foot straps and so on.
So I have inserts in this one, and I pretty much strap all the time, like 99% of the time. It's just today and yesterday was the first day I think I took the straps off and was unstrapping with my Magic Glampang board. Just figuring it out, moving my mast placement like all the way back. Because usually I ride the 1050, which is a really small. It's the next size down. and it's a surf wing, and it's super small. Not super small, but pretty small.
Yeah.
And not as much surface area.
So how does that compare to the 1250?
I like this wing a lot. I think this is the best wing that's out right now. It's super fast, surfy, but it's a thinner profile here with the tips rolling down, so you have a lot of roll when you lean into it, especially like hitting whitewash or whatever it may be. It holds a little more than the flatter mid aspect. It's kind of a little more. So this one has way more roll. You can like really push hard on the turns.
But then when you're pumping back out, it takes a little bit more speed to keep it flying, right?
That's the only thing. The pumping takes a little more speed. It's a little harder to pump compared to the 1250. But depends, like again, your weight, your size. So there's a lot of thin guys out there that can pump this wing and get like 3 or 4 for ones. Yeah. But it's a really good wing. I like surfing this wing. This is my favorite wing. I use it 99% of the time.
So let's talk about this one real quick. This is the 800, which is really small. Have you used this one?
I never.
You haven't even used this one? Okay, yeah. But this one is actually fun for really high speeds, like in towing, foiling, and so on. You know, if you're riding bigger waves, this is a nice one too. And this is that new A plus system. You want to talk about that a little bit? The difference between the original and the A plus system?
Yeah. So I got a A plus system, and
I'm gonna show the inside here. Can you see that? There's basically a screw going from the top through the middle to the bottom.
Yeah. So one thing about these, so on the opposite side there's like a barrel nut. So the screw goes through the top, through that barrel, through the fuselage, through that barrel nut, and when you tighten it, it just cinches up the whole thing, like way more stiff. So there's no side to side play on your front wing. But I've been figuring it out. I mean, it's not that hard to figure out, but if you tighten the top, you gotta make sure you tighten the bottom too. You can't just tighten one side, because the other side will be a little bit loose. It'll tighten up a little bit, but it won't be super snug. So remember, you gotta tighten the top and tighten the bottom, and check the top and check the bottom. My first day, I just did the top, and the barrel nut fell out. So always remember to tighten both. Make sure you tighten both. Check both of them. Yeah,
that makes sense. So here's the whole A plus system, also with the mast. So the mast also has that barrel nut that goes all the way through, and so that there, and this is the extra screw. So there's basically two extra screws that go all the way through, and otherwise it's pretty much the same. I mean, the shape of the mast and the fuselage and everything else is the same, and so it's backwards compatible. You can use the older system on the A plus system. It's not a problem to go backwards, or you can convert the original Armstrong to the A plus system by using this conversion kit. So we have these at the shop. Basically, there's a video, we'll link to that below, where Armstrong shows how to convert your wing basically and your mast to the A plus system. But one thing you have to do also is get the A plus fuselage. So you have to get an A plus fuselage and the conversion kit, and then basically you just drill through the carbon on your mast and on your wing to convert it to an A plus system. The reason why you need to get a fuselage is because it has titanium inside, and it's hard to drill through the titanium. So we don't recommend converting an old fuselage to the A plus system, only the wing and the mast basically. But we have these as kits, so it comes with the fuselage and the conversion kit. So another difference between the original Armstrong system and the A plus system is the shim, the way the shims work. And earlier Daniel put on this shim on his wing, and that's the older one. It's like basically a 3D printed titanium shim, and the new ones are a little bit different, right, on the A plus system.
Yeah. Like that. So the A plus system has two different shims. There's a red and a blue. 1 degree, and then which is the red, and then 0.5 degree. which is the blue. So they give you 2 of each.
And so you can actually stack these on top of each other and get up to 3 degrees, I guess, or you can get 2.5, 2, 1.5, 1, so half a degree. Like, so this is very easily modified, different angles, without having to spend a lot of money on expensive titanium shims. So that's kind of a nice improvement also on the A+ system, yeah.
Super nice.
Armstrong also recently introduced this super high aspect wing. It's actually the most high aspect wing on the market. So Daniel, can you tell us a little bit more about this one?
So this wing, when I first got this wing, I tried it out in the surf and I was blown away. It took me like 4 waves to get used to it, because as you see, the cord is so narrow. The profile in the front is super thin, and it's a different shape from a lot of the foils out there. So it has like almost look like a bird wing.
It's turned up a little bit.
It's turned
at the
up a little
tips.
bit.
Yeah.
And so first few waves I rode it, and I got used to it right after 4 waves, and I think I was pumping around for like almost 7 minutes straight, which I never did before. And then I got so confident, then I did we have this place called Takeoff, and jumped off there and went down to Tongs, and I did it in my first try. So I did it 3 times, and this wing was fast. It's super fast, efficient.
So that from Takeoff to Tongs is like maybe 2 or 3 miles
2 or 3
downwind.
miles.
So you take off in the surf zone, but then you go and
Pump
pump out to the wind
Yeah.
swell.
So you pump out to the wind swell that's going across, and this thing is just a cruiser. It's so fast, super fast and real efficient. Yeah.
So, but in the waves, how does it compare to like the 1250 or the 1050?
So in the waves, it can turn, but it don't turn like the 1250 or the 1050, just because the cord is a little thin. It's fast, but again, when you start putting a lot of torque in the turns, then the tip again, it just comes out of the surface and breaks. So
it might also work better with a longer mast, I think, because then that gives you a little bit more room to work with in the turns. Yeah.
So the next mast up from the 72 centimeter would be
The
the 85.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 85.
The 85 mast is probably a good one to use with a really wide wingspan wing,
Yeah.
you know. So this one's super efficient, great for doing downwinders and those kind of things, wing foiling in light wind and things like that, right?
Yeah, this thing is, it goes.
Special.
Yeah, it's something.
Okay. So Daniel, can you give some tips on takeoffs, prone foiling takeoffs?
Prone foiling takeoffs. So a lot of guys, there's no one right way and no wrong way, but like for me, like strapping, I always put my back foot in the strap first, and then my front foot I'll put it in. So like guys without straps too, they just pop up just like surfing. But a lot of the beginners, like I would tell them to kind of like almost like how we strap, we kind of just put our back foot first and hold the front of the board down, like keep pushing it down, and then put your front foot up instead of just popping up, because you kind of want that placement like perfect, because if not, it just bucks you up and breaches quickly.
And you kind of want to keep your hands on the board until you have your front foot placed kind of in between your hands, right? Because if you take the pressure off the board, it'll just pop
come
up, right?
Yeah, so it's always replacing pressure. So you put your back foot on, you push with your front of your hands, and then after you put your front foot on, then you can release your 2 hands off the rail. So it's like replacing.
I also noticed like today you were kind of catching the white wash, right? Like you wait till the wave is already breaking and then catch the white water, right? Is that the easiest way to take off, would you say?
It's just, yeah, it's not really, I mean, yeah, it's easier, but my board is kind of small. I mean, and sometimes like if I can't get outside to the wave, then I'll just turn around and catch the closeout and just get up in the white water. But for beginners, yeah, I think that would be the best way, is taking off in the white water and find something more like like a wave that'll break and just keep just rolling instead of be like super steep and just closing out and like and then just backing off like real quick. You want something that's kind of like whitewash and just roll, you know.
Yeah, basically a wave that kind of crumbles at the top and has like a little slope in front of it, right?
Yeah.
Like a little bunny slope that you can take off on, right? Yeah. Okay, those are good tips. Okay, so to sum it up, for prone foiling, Daniel recommends starting on a bigger foil like the 1550 or maybe even the 1850 if you're a bigger guy or girl. And then as you improve and get better, maybe go a little bit smaller, something like the 1250. It's like a mid-aspect, more efficient design. And then as you get better, maybe also the 1050 or an overview. Okay, so I hope you found this little overview of the Armstrong lineup for prone foiling useful. Thanks, Daniel, for your tips.
Thanks, Robert.
Thanks for watching. Please give it a thumbs up if you found it helpful. And subscribe to the Blue Planet Surf YouTube channel down below. Thanks for watching. Aloha.
Aloha.